There is a black cat that often lingers at the edge of every story. It isn't the protagonist. It saves no one. It changes nothing. It simply watches in silence. Hello there. This is Wandering Cat. I watch films, then retell them in my own words, leaving space for your imagination to roam free.
I have lived for centuries. Through the eyes of the salmon, the deer, and the wolf, I have watched the Northmen invade, plundering and slaying in their hunger for gold. I have seen suffering in the darkness, yet I have also seen beauty rise from the most fragile of places. I have seen the book, the one with the power to turn darkness into light. Do you hear that? That is the whisper of a mystical figure who will guide us through today's tale. So, without further ado, let's journey back in time to 9th century Ireland, to the world of the Secret of Kells. Close your eyes and imagine. Amidst endless emerald forests, shrouded in a thick, heavy mist and encircled by a massive, unfinished wall, lies the Abbey of Kells. Within those walls lives 12-year-old Brendan, under the strict guardianship of his uncle, Abbot Selleck, a towering, stern man. Life inside the enclosure follows a quiet rhythm. While the elders and women tend to the livestock and crops, the able-bodied men are all assigned to one task: building the wall. You see, during this time, brutal Viking raids were becoming more frequent. These Northmen were notorious for their savagery, leaving a trail of blood and ruin wherever they went, all in a relentless hunt for gold. Driven by the hope that a fortress of stone could protect his people from the coming tide, the abbot poured every ounce of his soul into its construction. But to Brendan, that wall felt less like a shield and more like a cage, cutting him off from the vast world outside.
Most of Brendan's days were spent helping the brothers organize manuscripts or acting as a young courier for his uncle. However, life wasn't always mundane. One day, after running out of quills, Brendan and the monks set out to pluck feathers from a goose. The bird, sensing its fate, led them on a frantic chase across the abbey. It scurried in every direction before fluttering up onto the precarious scaffolding of the unfinished wall. Small and agile, Brendan climbed up after it, ignoring the panicked cries of a monk below. "Brendan, that scaffolding isn't safe." "Don't worry, brother, I'll be careful." No sooner were the words out of his mouth than a wooden plank snapped with a sharp crack. Brendan let out a yell as he tumbled into a narrow gap between the walls. Fortunately, some canvas sheets below broke his fall. In the sudden silence that followed, Brendan noticed a small crevice in the masonry. Curious, he peered through, and for the first time in his life, he saw the edge of the forest in the distance, deep, green, and shrouded in mystery. The monks outside called for him, so he quickly scrambled out. The unlucky goose was finally caught, squawking in protest as its feathers were plucked. The noise drew the attention of the abbot. While a monk scrambled for an explanation, Brendan realized he had forgotten to deliver the sketches to his uncle. As punishment, the entire group was ordered to work on the wall all the following day. Once the abbot left, the monks began to grumble. Why was the wall the only thing he cared about? What about the books? Without books, knowledge would be lost forever. "He just wants to protect us from the dangers outside," Brendan defended his uncle. "But we can't just build walls forever. People need books. Books bring hope. It's a shame we are only copyists. If only we had a master illuminator like Brother Aidan from the Isle of Iona, everything would be different." They began to tell Brendan of Aidan, a sage from Iona, who guarded a legendary book started 200 years ago by St. Colmcille. Rumor had it that under Aidan's touch, the pages began to glow with a heavenly light, so brilliant that those with darkness in their hearts would be struck blind just by looking at it. One day, while bringing sketches to the abbot, Brendan found himself in trouble yet again for making constant mistakes. He stood in the design room, head bowed in silence. One day you will have to rule this place, Brendan, and yet you spend hours on a task as simple as this, Kellic spoke, his calloused hands feverishly sketching dry mathematical formulas onto a wall already covered in fortress blueprints. He didn't even look at the boy. The sheer disappointment radiating from his towering figure made the room feel suffocating. Brendan could only mumble a soft apology and turn toward the window. His gaze drifted far away to the horizon, where the clouds were stained with the color of dying embers. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the gate, breaking the heavy atmosphere of the abbey. It was none other than the master, Aidan of Iona. Far from the grand image Brendan had imagined, Aidan appeared in a worn, tattered cloak, with hair and a beard as white as sea foam. Yet his eyes were remarkably sharp and spirited. By his side trotted Pangur Bon, a snow-white cat. Brendan and the other monks, who had been whispering and joking among themselves, fell silent in awe as the abbot introduced him. The man they had admired for so long, the keeper of Iona's soul, was standing right there in the flesh. Their excitement was palpable. After the greetings, they moved to the scriptorium. Aidan's only luggage was a small satchel slung across his hip. Unable to contain his curiosity, Brendan whispered, "That bag, is the book inside it, Brother Aidan?" Before he could finish, the abbot stepped in, his face tight with tension, and pulled Aidan into a private room. Brendan and the cat followed stealthily. Pressing his ear against the heavy oak door, Brendan heard the abbot's angry outburst. "You shouldn't have come here. The Vikings might follow you, and we have too much work to do." It turned out that Iona had fallen to a Viking raid. Aidan had narrowly escaped, leaving them far behind. Despite the danger, he had managed to save the book, and he had come to Kells seeking a temporary sanctuary to finish it. Surrounded by architectural blueprints, Aidan could see the abbot's obsession with the wall. He sighed. "Forgive me, abbot, but no wall can stop the Vikings. When they come, all we can do is run and hope we are fast enough." With that, he turned and walked away.
That night, Brendan couldn't sleep. He crept into the scriptorium where Aidan was resting. Overcome by curiosity, he reached out to sneak a peek at the book when Aidan's voice suddenly came from behind. "Well now, what have we here? A little thief, eh, Pangur?" Startled, Brendan stammered, I didn't mean any harm. All I've ever seen is the inside of these walls. I just wanted to see it, just one page." Amused by the boy's honesty, Aidan let out a chuckle. He decided to let Brendan see it. As he gently pulled the book from his satchel, Brendan was mesmerized. Under the flickering candlelight, the gold and gemstones on the cover shimmered brilliantly. "The cover's not the true treasure, Brendan. Open it." Then, with the excitement of a child showing off a prize, Aidan said, "Do you want to see the most magnificent page of all? The Chi Rho page." He flipped to a page that was completely blank. Brendan was confused. "But it's empty." "Indeed it is, but it will become the most glorious page in the entire book. However, I'll need your help." Brendan was overjoyed at the prospect, but his heart sank when Aidan told him he had to go into the woods to find gallnuts for ink. I'm not allowed to go outside. My uncle says it's too dangerous." Aidan placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice dropping to a low, wise tone. "You know, Brendan, you will learn more from nature than from anything inside these walls. The trees and the stones will whisper secrets you won't find anywhere else. You will see magic, the kind of magic your uncle himself once saw a long, long time ago." That night, Brendan couldn't catch a wink of sleep. Terrifying images of monsters lurking in the wild danced in his mind. "But if I only think about the book, I won't be afraid, and surely I won't have to go far, right?" he whispered to Pangur Bon. He made up his mind. Tomorrow, he would sneak into the forest to find the gallnuts. Before the first rays of dawn could break, Brendan slipped through the secret crevice he had discovered after his fall. Pangur followed silently behind. For the first time, Brendan stepped into the woods. He was mesmerized by the canopy above and the sweet chirping of birds. But the beauty didn't last. A sudden rustle in the bushes and the feeling of eyes watching him sent him into a blind panic. He ran deeper and deeper until he was utterly lost. A thick mist rolled in, accompanied by the eerie caw of crows and the unmistakable howl of wolves. He was surrounded. Brendan scrambled onto a rock, clutching a dry branch to fend off the snarling pack. Just as hope was fading, a snow-white wolf blurred past. Its powerful howl sent the surrounding pack scattering into the night. While Brendan still had his eyes squeezed shut in prayer, a clear, youthful voice chimed, "Is this your cat?" Standing before him was a small girl with flowing white hair that touched the ground and eyes full of ancient spark. Shaken, Brendan stammered, Are you a forest spirit?" At first, the girl looked at him with suspicion, even threatening to set the wolves on him if he had come to destroy her forest. But when she realized Brendan was only searching for gallnuts to make ink, and that he was an orphan just like her coldness melted away. Two lonely souls found an instant connection.
Her name was Aisling, and no one knew the forest better than she did. Aisling led Brendan into the very heart of the woods, a place where crystal streams bubbled, flowers bloomed in endless carpets, and ancient trees stood like silent giants from a dream. Finally, she brought him to the greatest tree of all, its branches spanning the sky like a green cathedral. "What you seek is up there," Aisling said. Agile as a squirrel, Aisling scaled the tree, guiding a struggling Brendan behind her. From the top, the entire world opened up, a vibrant, living sea of green, with the Abbey of Kells sitting like a tiny speck on the distant horizon. After gathering the gallnuts, they descended just as twilight began to fall. Aisling, distracted by a butterfly, drifted ahead, leaving Brendan behind. That's when a strange, haunting whisper lured him toward a gloomy cave. The darkness inside was so thick it felt suffocating, and the entrance was guarded by stone statues twisted in eternal agony. From behind, Aisling screamed in terror, "Get out of there, now, it's dangerous!" Suddenly, a shadowy limb reached out from the abyss, like a demonic hand trying to drag Brendan in. Panicked, Aisling rushed forward and used all her strength to topple a stone statue, sealing the entrance. Even a brief touch from that darkness left her face pale and lifeless. It was the lair of Crom Cruach, the ancient evil that had taken Aisling's family. Aisling led Brendan back to the forest edge, where the great wall loomed once more. Before they parted, she told him he could visit whenever he liked. They were friends now. Panger meowed in agreement, as if saying, "Thank you." Back at Kells, Brendan proudly showed his trophy to brother Aidan. Like a mad scientist, Aidan began brewing the ink using flasks and tubes. After a flurry of smoke and bubbling, a tiny, foul-smelling nut was transformed into ink as clear and blue as crystal. Meanwhile, the shadow of the Vikings grew darker. Reports of slaughter reached the abbey, and more refugees flooded toward the walls of Kells. Construction became a desperate race against time. By day, Brendan helped his uncle at the wall, but by night he slipped away to the scriptorium. Aidan's eyes and hands were failing him with age. He knew he couldn't finish the masterpiece alone. He chose Brendan to carry on the light. To finish the book, Aidan needed a legendary crystal lens known as the Eye of Colmcille. But alas, that treasure had been lost amidst the smoke and blood during Aidan's frantic escape from Iona. Aidan spoke of it as a distant legend, but Brendan, having faced the darkness at the forest's edge, knew the eye was real. It was held in the clutches of the dark deity, Crom Cruach. That night, Brendan prepared to venture into the deep woods once more, but before he could even leave the abbey, he was caught red-handed by his uncle, Selloch. The abbot's fury was the final straw. With the Vikings closing in, he could no longer tolerate what he saw as fanciful delusions about books and art. In a moment of desperate tyranny, he locked Brendan away in a dark cellar. Pangar, sensing the gravity of the situation, slipped into the forest to find Aisling. From behind his prison bars, Brendan explained everything to her. Since Aisling, a creature of the spirit world, could not touch cold metal, she used her magic to guide Pangar. She began to sing a haunting, ethereal melody. Under her spell, the cat transformed into a ghostly mist, drifting through the keyhole of the abbot's chambers to snatch the key and dash back to Brendan's cell. Once freed, the two rushed into the forest. Brendan was determined to face the lair of Crom Cruach. Standing before the gaping mouth of the cave, Aisling gripped his hand, trembling. "Don't go in there, Brendan. It took my mother. It devours all life. You won't survive." But Brendan's eyes burned with an iron resolve. "If I don't go, the book will remain unfinished forever." Moved by his courage, Aisling and Pangar helped him unseal the dark cavern once more. But the cost was devastating. The cruel darkness of the ancient evil surged forward, swallowing Aisling whole. Before her strength faded into nothingness, she whispered one last time, "Fight, Brendan. Turn the darkness into light. I believe in you." Brendan plummeted into the abyss, coming to face with a monstrous serpentine beast with a flicking tongue and teeth as jagged as saws. It lunged at him, but Brendan didn't reach for a sword. Instead, he used the unwavering strength of his soul and his imagination like a piece of magic chalk, drawing a glowing barrier against the monster. In a decisive moment, he snatched the crystal eye from the beast's face. Blinded and driven into a frenzy, Crom Cruach began to tear and devour its own body, collapsing into nothingness. As Brendan emerged from the cave, the world was bathed in golden sunlight. The forest seemed to wake up. The gloom of the past completely vanished. He called out frantically, "Aisling, Aisling!" But there was no answer, only a sea of pure white flowers blooming where the darkness once stood. With the crystal lens in hand, Brendan joyfully showed his prize to brother Aidan. Through that lens, Brendan found a literal paradise at the tip of his quill. He began to illuminate the pages with a feverish passion, taking over for Aidan. The other monks, moved by the boy's divine talent, helped him keep it a secret. But a secret can only stay hidden for so long. One night, Selleck entered the scriptorium, his face haggard from exhaustion and the crushing weight of leadership. When he saw the crowd gathered around the boy who was lost in his art, all his suppressed stress exploded like a volcano. "You fool! The Northmen are barely a day's march away, and you are still here doodling these useless things?" His roar shattered the silence. In a fit of frantic despair, Selleck snatched the manuscript Brendan had poured his soul into for days and rip! The fragile parchment was torn apart. The next day, snow began to fall, draping a white funeral shroud over the world. Amidst the eerie quiet, a child played innocently with the snowflakes, unaware that death was knocking at the door. Suddenly, thousands of black crows erupted from the forest, blotting out the sky. Then came the sound, thud, thud, thud. The massive blows against the gate echoed like the war drums of hell. Thousands of fire arrows streaked through the darkness, etching veins of fire across the snowy sky. Panic erupted. Refugees trampled over one another, rushing up makeshift wooden scaffolds to find safety within the abbey. But how could rotting wood hold the weight of such terror? They splintered and snapped, plunging hundreds of screaming souls into a sea of fire. The gates burst open. The Vikings surged in like a violent flood, bringing nothing but death and ruin. Kells had fallen. In the chaos, Selleck suddenly remembered his nephew. He crawled desperately to save Brendan and Aidan, but a Viking blade coldly pierced his flesh.
The abbot collapsed, his breath rattling in a pool of blood, his eyes fixed on the scriptorium as it was swallowed by red flames. Inside, Aidan and Brendan were cornered. As a savage Viking kicked down the door, Aidan instinctively threw his herbal ink mixtures into the fire. A thick, mystical green smoke billowed up, blinding the enemy and giving the master and apprentice a chance to escape. Brendan saw his uncle lying there, bloodied and alone. He tried to rush to him, but Aidan held him back. "We must go, Brendan. If we stay, everything is lost." Selleck watched his nephew's silhouette vanish into the deep woods, tears of belated regret streaming down his ashen cheeks. Brendan and Aidan fled into the heart of the forest, clutching the precious pages. 3 Vikings pursued them. One managed to snatch the book, but he only cared for the jewel-encrusted cover. He maniacally ripped it off and tossed the useless parchment aside. Just as their blades were about to fall, low growls echoed from the shadows. A pack of ferocious wolves, their eyes glowing like embers, charged out like warriors of the night. The Vikings fled in terror. Brendan knew this was Iceling's final gift to him. Amidst the white snow, Brendan and Aidan scrambled to gather the scattered pages, the pages that carried the very soul of Kells. Once they had taken what they wanted, the Vikings retreated, leaving Kells a hollow, smoldering ruin. Only a few survivors remained. As they searched through the debris, they found Selleck. He was alive, but his spirit was broken. He wanted to give up, to simply fade away for the lives he had lost. But a survivor took his hand. "You are the abbot. You must live to lead us back to the light."
Years passed, spring blossomed into summer, autumn faded into winter, the great wheel of the world turned on and on. Traveling alongside Master Aidan through every corner of the land, the young boy Brendan grew into a man. Those small hands of his were now calloused but gifted. He had become a true master illuminator. Before drawing his final breath, Aidan slowly entrusted the treasure of his life to Brendan. His gaze was serene as he shared his parting words. "Brendan, this book will never truly have meaning if it stays locked behind cold stone walls, severed from the very world that inspired it. Take it, carry this light to the people, to warm their hearts with hope and to illuminate the dark days of war and strife." Brendan set out for Kells. As he journeyed through the familiar woods, a snow-white wolf appeared, guiding his path. Brendan smiled, a fierce belief rising within him that Iceling, the forest faerie of his youth, was still there, watching over and protecting him. At Kells, in a dim, shadowed room, the abbot sat, now frail, his hair white as bone. He lived a hollow life, haunted every day by the echoes of his past mistakes. He lay in bed, his clouded eyes staring out the window into the distant gloom. Suddenly, a figure stepped inside, just as the warm light of dawn flooded the room, chasing away the shadows. Kellich gasped. Standing before him was Brendan, the nephew he had long thought lost to the world. In that moment of reunion, tears of joy and shame welled in his eyes. With trembling hands, Kellich pulled out a treasure he had guarded with his life all these years, the very page he had torn in his rage so long ago. Brendan gently drew the book from his satchel, and together they gazed upon the finished masterpiece, the Book of Iona, now known as the Book of Kells. It was a radiant marvel, a testament that the light of beauty and faith will always endure, even when stone walls crumble to dust. After hearing Brendan's story, have you ever stopped to look at the walls you are building around your own life? Deep down, we all have an Abbot Selleck inside us. It's our fear of failure, fear of getting hurt, fear that the Vikings of life will snatch away everything we hold dear. So we build walls, we shut our hearts, we turn down new opportunities, and we choose a safety that eventually feels like a prison. But as you've seen, even the highest wall can fall.
The only thing that helped Brendan transcend the darkness of war and time was the book. That book is more than just beautiful illustrations. It is the embodiment of the best parts of humanity: pure curiosity, the courage to venture into the deep woods, the sincere friendship with Aisling, and the strength to face our own Crom Cruach. The philosophy of the Secret of Kells is simple yet profound. Don't just spend your life building walls to keep out the darkness. Learn to paint the light. That light could be a passion you've been too afraid to chase, a word of love you haven't dared to speak, or simply the belief that no matter how chaotic the world becomes, if you keep your crystal eye, a clear and pure soul, you will always find your way home. So do not fear the forest outside, for only there will you find the gall nuts to write the most brilliant chapter of your own life, as vibrant and immortal as the pages of Kells.